Hello everyone.
Hello.
Good morning everyone. Morning. I'm Donnie Prakoso. I'm a principal developer advocate and I'm Chani friend.
Hi everybody, my name is Derek. I am also a developer advocate and Chani's friend.
So we really appreciate that you come in for the community day in Seoul, Korea. Really appreciate your time, and today this is the topic that we're going to share with all of you on how that we are going to utilize these Gen AI and machine learning to improve our experience as a developers. Right, so just a quick question. How many of you are developers? Oh, right, okay. So, so this is going to be fun because we're going to talk a lot about...
Yep, that's okay.
But it doesn't show up. Yeah, so we are still waiting for the slides. There it is. Yeah. So this is the workflow that we are talking about on how that we could develop an applications starting from our local laptop, right? And the typical workflow is that we're going to develop on our local laptop, and then we use tools to build applications on multiple environments, and how that we could review, we could test, build artifacts, and then deploy into AWS Cloud. But the biggest problem that we have currently is that there are so many challenges. Like, for example, how that we could implement best practices. We are currently building applications with various programming languages. Java. How many of you building applications on Java? Right. Ooh.
Java.
Okay, Python. Lovely. Okay, so you have any questions? Which?
Well, C#.
C#? See? Python. So Python and Java is most of the... Yeah, so we're going to introduce you a couple of tools that AWS has to help you to build applications on serverless, on containers, and we also have a couple of demos too.
We have 2 demos today
that
we're going to run.
Yeah, and if we have this courage to overrun the session, we're going to introduce you to 4 demos. No? Okay, all right. So the key takeaways that we want to share with you is that basically on what are the tools that you can use to develop on AWS Lambda and also AWS Fargate. How many of you are familiar with AWS Lambda? Cool. Okay, AWS Fargate. Okay, so we're going to give you some overview the tools as well. We have AWS Application Composer, Code Whisperer, to AWS Copilot, CDK, and AWS SAM. So it's going to be a really fun demos ahead. Right. So again, let's take a quick overview on the typical software delivery lifecycle. We write and review, we build and test, we deploy, we observe, which means they implement observability and monitoring. But let's be honest, there are so many challenges. Right? How that we develop application with best practices? Right? How that we could make our application secure? What are the tools that we can use to develop the code faster? Right? So those are the challenges that we currently having in day-to-day basis. And we are hoping in this session we could enlighten you with all the tools that we have AWS offers to you, so you can develop and build secure applications on AWS.
Okay,
Right.
So that's a lot of things to do. So how do we get started? How do we start our application development journey? So there are 2 fundamental runtimes that you can use when thinking about building and deploying applications on AWS, and these are those 2. We have AWS Lambda and AWS Fargate. So when we talk about AWS Lambda, we're talking about serverless. We're talking about our applications being event-driven, and we're talking how we can decompose our services into small bits, small chunks that all communicate with each other. Whereas, as with Fargate,
Yeah, with Fargate is an option for you if you want to run containers in a serverless approach. Now, something that I would like to emphasize here when it comes to serverless is that you don't need to maintain the infrastructure anymore. So that means that you don't need to maintain the day-to-day operations. You don't need to do OS patching. You don't need to upgrade your operating system. Everything has been done for you. And then with AWS Fargate, it makes your life much easier because imagine that you have a Docker file, right? And then you just deploy it into AWS Cloud without having to worry about your infrastructure. And this is the question that I frequently got from the developers. All right, so you have AWS Lambda and you have AWS Fargate. Which one that I need to choose? Right, so that's the biggest questions. So if you want to run your short function, you can use AWS Lambda. But if you want to run a long-running application, like for example, a web and app server, you can use AWS Fargate. Now, understanding this in this session is really important because this is the basis on how the tools could help you to build applications.
So those tools are what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start with serverless.
Yay.
So what tools do we recommend that you think about when you're building serverless applications?
Correct.
So when we talk serverless, these are the functions and the services that we think of. We think of an event. So an event may be created by a number of services. It may be created by S3, simple storage service. It may be created by an update to a database. Or it may be caused by a third-party API calling us. That is an event source. Then the function or the consumer is the Lambda function that consumes that event and then has some logic in it to process it before then sending that on from the Lambda function to a consumer service. And a consumer service can be anything. It can be an API, it can be another AWS service, but the one thing to notice here is how each element is decoupled from each other. It's very key when you think about event-driven architectures. And the joy with Lambda is you can write them in C# as well as Python. And Java. Right, so what about a tool to help me with this, Donnie?
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? So another question is, how many of you still creating the infrastructure on AWS by using the dashboard? Come on, don't be shy. By using the console?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I do.
Don't do that.
Oh, sorry.
Right, okay, so what we're going to share with you, the first tool that's going to help you to build serverless applications on AWS is this really cute and powerful squirrel called AWS SAM, or Serverless Application Model. Now, what you see on the left side is the infrastructure as code, which means by using these kind of declarative configurations, this kind of declarative manifest, it will help you to create an Amazon API gateway, AWS Lambda functions, DynamoDB table, and also with all these IAM roles. Now, this is a really legit configuration. If you just take a photo and copy and paste everything and put it into the AWS CloudFormation, you're going to have your serverless API directly. Right? So, and this is one of really good thing about ISC, because with infrastructure as code, like for in this example is AWS SAM, you don't need to manually create all those infrastructure and also the architecture using console. You just need to run this template and then run AWS SAM deploy, and then it's going to deploy into your applications directly, which is really amazing.
It is amazing, Donnie. And another amazing tool that you should be using when you develop Lambda functions is this one. This is Lambda Power Tools. This is open source, and it has some fantastic features that you should be using inside your Lambda functions. Whether those Lambda functions are written in Python, or Java, or TypeScript,
or .NET,
or even .NET, Lambda Power Tools is something you should be using.
True. So imagine about AWS Lambda Power Tools are a set of libraries that you can easily use, so you don't need to rebuild everything from scratch. Like for example, hey, how do I implement observability? How do I implement security for my applications? This is your answer, AWS Lambda Power Tools, right?
So that's some tools that you use. The next phase of this, we're going to lead into a bit of a demo. And you may have heard of the term AI. Don't be worried.
Yes.
AI is not replacing developers.
Yeah.
It's enhancing developer experience. And so our demos are all around how that is happening. So let's talk about the fundamental building blocks of AI on AWS. Donnie?
Yeah, so Amazon Bedrock is a really amazing service that you can use to choose what kind of foundation models. If you want to build a chat assistant with Gen AI, if you want to create an article using text, or even you want to create an image. Well, now the biggest problem when it comes to Gen AI, consuming Gen AI API is that you have various vendors to choose with. Now, this is something that I really, really like about Amazon Bedrock. It's available on your console right now if you want to try it out. So with Amazon Bedrock, you only need to interact with an API, just one API, and you have this flexibility to choose which foundational models that you want to use to create like an article or image generation. It has a lot of foundation models, like in this example, we have AI21 Labs, we have from Anthropic, we have also Amazon Titan as well.
We do.
Yeah.
And another tool you can use that uses AI to enhance the developer experience is Amazon Code Whisperer, which is a plugin to your favorite IDE that you can use to help generate code that it would usually take you a lot of time to do. Amazon Code Whisperer will do this for you using prompts.
Yeah, and it also has support for C#.
It does, Donnie, which is fantastic.
All right, so let's dive into the first demo. In this demo, we're going to build a serverless applications that utilize a Gen AI to create an article, right? So we're going to guide you from the beginning. So Bedrock first.
Okay, so this is the AWS console. Some of you may be familiar with it. And this is Amazon Bedrock. As you can see, if I go into here, you'll see all of the models that Donnie had earlier on the slide. Today we're going to use the A121 Labs model, and we can use an example to understand how to implement and call this model. And we also have a playground that we can use to play around and see how things work. So I'm going to use this playground, choose the base model, choose the specific model for that provider, the provider. So I'm going to use the Jurassic 2 Ultra, dinosaurs. So I need a prompt, Donnie. So
Prompt.
we've been in Korea about 5 hours.
5 hours?
6 hours.
Okay. Okay, I have a prompt for you.
Okay.
What are you going to write an article? We write an article about kimchi, Korean kimchi.
How about we write an article in Korean?
Let's do that.
About amazing
Kimchi.
Korean kimchi.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Okay, so let's
Cool.
run that.
Let's run that.
And so as the model has a think,
Oh.
we have, so I can't read Korean, so hopefully that is correct. And that is a very nice article on Korean kimchi. So using Bedrock, we play with things and we get an idea and understanding of our application. We can then extend that by calling the same APIs from our code. And Bedrock provides us with the facility to do that here. So I can copy and paste the API call. I can then jump in to my IDE of choice, which is Visual Studio Code. And that's the wrong project.
Okay.
Oh,
so
there it is. Yep. I see it. So this is my IDE. I copy in the API call, which is that one there. I also invoke the Bedrock runtime, which comes from Boto 3, actually. So if you are already developing on AWS, you'll be very familiar with the Boto 3 library. I then call the model, and we'll see what happens. So where is the terminal? So if I run this application, we should then get a similar result writing us an article about amazing Korean kimchi.
And there you go.
And so that is also some text on Korean kimchi. So I've finished my local development. I have an application that I can run via Python. So it's a Python application that creates a description and some text in an article about Korean kimchi. But how do I publish this to the real world? How can I make this accessible to the real world?
Right.
Donnie?
Let me show you. Right, so here in this case that Derek is a developer, right? And then usually in the real world scenario, the deployment will be handled by the operations team. Now something that's really cool about this service from AWS that I want to share with you is called Application Composer. So I just need to go to Application Composer here, right? And with Application Composer, we have a bunch of amazing features, and this really helped me, even for me, to learn about how to integrate or how to build architecture. Like for in this case, we want to build a serverless API, right? So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to have an API gateway. Cool, right? And then to host the applications, Derek wants to use AWS Lambda function. Done.
Yes, I do, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we can also configure all the properties if you want to make changes. Like for example, if you want to change the runtime from Node.js to Python or Java or .NET, we can change everything here, right? Now, the second amazing feature about this Application Composer is that you can also build the architecture. How does one element integrate with another by, ta-da! Magic, right? Okay, so how about if I want to have a storage for my files? Damn, right? And then, oh, I want to trigger the Lambda functions to access the S3 bucket too.
Now you
Yep.
tricky.
Yeah, this is going to be tricky. It's going to be here, and then it's going to here. There you go. But the third amazing feature about this Application Composer is this one.
Is that CloudFormation, Donnie?
That is CloudFormation,
Oh my
correct.
goodness.
You read my mind.
Yeah, I did.
Right. Now this is really like creating a seamless integration that the operations team, they can utilize Application Composer to architect the overall system by using Application Composer. And then it creates the infrastructure as code, the manifest. You can just copy and paste what you have here, and then copy on the CloudFormation, and then you will get a serverless API. Right. Now, the next...
How am I going to run my application, Donnie?
Okay, so we can easily copy and paste on CloudFormation.
You could do.
But we're going to show you something that's really cool. And that is the
serverless application model that we talked about earlier?
AWS SAM.
Yes.
Right. So with AWS SAM, okay, something that I forgot to mention. When it comes to building applications, it's really important for us to understand on how that we could design or organize our application. Now you can see, this is the applications that Derek already wrote. And this is the template that we're going to use to deploy the application, which means that you can have the infrastructure as code and also the source code of your applications in one single repository, which is really amazing. Right, so SAM. SAM is a CLI tool and also a framework for you to run to build a serverless application. The first thing that you probably want to do after SAM init, right, initialize the project, is that you want to build the applications so it creates an artifact for you to deploy into your AWS cloud. Right. The next question is that how that we can deploy the application? SAM deploy. Done. If you want to delete, just SAM delete. Right. So in this case, we also already have the application deployed. And if you want to check the progress, you can go to the CloudFormation, and this is the example of the SAM application. And at the end, we have this really nice API right? Because if we go to this URL, it's going to create the integration with Amazon Bedrock that Derek already done.
Hopefully that looks familiar.
Yeah.
And also is an article about kimchi.
Does it look good? Does it look good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the first demo that we have.
Okay, if you want to know more about Bedrock, ask Chani.
Ask Chani.
Chani.
Yeah. If you want to know more about serverless application model and SAM on all those things about serverless, ask
Chani.
Right. Yeah. So Chani has everything to. Chani is our developer advocate here in Korea. So definitely you know him. He is like amazing.
So that's the application built, but usually you don't just write one Lambda function or your application is one component. It's usually multiple components.
Correct.
So you need to understand how these are joined
True.
and how you control flow between them. And so Donnie has went in and he showed you how to visualize those components of your application using Application Composer to do that. And he did that very well.
Yeah, and there's another
There's another way.
Yes, another way. So AWS Application Composer is a really great tool for you to visualize the diagram of architecture of your application. And you can deploy it with SAM deploy. But there's another way if you want to have granular control. Like if you want to dive deeper into your architecture, you can use AWS CDK or Cloud Development Kit. This is a really magical tool. And
there are differences between the two. So we've talked about AWS SAM and we've talked about AWS CDK. AWS SAM, you want to use AWS SAM if you want to test locally. If you really like writing in YAML. I don't like writing in YAML, but some people do. So if you like writing in YAML, then SAM is for you. But do not despair. You can eject SAM into CloudFormation as well. And what about the CDK? What's the differences between the CDK, Donnie?
So the main differences when it comes to between SAM and CDK is that with CDK, you can use your familiar programming languages to build your application. Okay, so I'm going to show you a bit. I'm not going to take a very long time, I know. So for example, if I have this CDK application, and I don't. I don't get it open, right? So yeah, but AWS CDK, you can use Java, Python to code your infrastructure, which is really cool. It's really making a seamless integration between dev and ops team.
It is. So that's enough about serverless. We're now going to move on to containers and how and the tools that you should use when you're building these sort of applications on containers.
Yeah, so AWS Fargate is a serverless compute engine for containers, right? And you can use AWS Fargate to with major orchestrators on AWS, and they are Amazon ECS and Amazon EKS. If you want to deploy your application with really powerful simplicity, you can use Amazon ECS. But there's a time when you need to have a granular control of your applications and you want to use Kubernetes, you can use Amazon EKS. The good news is that you can use AWS Fargate to deploy into Amazon ECS and Amazon EKS.
Both. So if you love Kubernetes or kubes, you can deploy on Fargate.
True.
Excellent.
But in this case, we want to show you on how easy it is to build applications on Amazon ECS and AWS Copilot. Because let's be honest, when it comes to deploying with containers, there's a really significance between packaging containers with Dockerfile and deployment, right? And deploying at scale. So those two are really different stories. There are so many learning curves that we need to understand. Now, there's one tool that could help you to minimize the learning curve, and that is AWS Copilot. It's a really amazing tool. So with AWS Copilot, it's actually answering all of your questions when it comes to like how to deploy applications, how to scale my applications, how to implement observability, how to implement PubSub. Those are the questions that we have. Either that you are a beginners, intermediate, or advanced users, these are the questions that pops up in your mind. And with AWS Copilot, you have everything within one single tool with best practices.
Okay, on to demo 2.
Right.
So our second demo, we're going to build an application to make resume reading a lot easier.
Yep.
And this is it. So what this application does, it uses Bedrock again to look through a job description. So this is the job description, which is, apologies, in English, but it could be in Korean. I post the job description in here, and I choose the number, upload the files, which are where?
It's going to be here. There you go.
So these are a lot of resumes for that job. I open those up and then choose a model. So we used the Titan, we used the A121
A121
Jurassic model earlier.
Jurassic.
This one is Claude. And so if I hit this, it will go through and upload those resumes into a vector database, and we're going to use a technology called LangChain. So LangChain is the way that we can tie where is that one? There. LangChain is a way we can tie the requests from Bedrock into a vector database. And so for this example, we're actually using Amazon Aurora as the vector store for LangChain to interact with. And if you see, I'm using a lot of LangChain libraries. Again, this is a Python app, and we've actually got one for Bedrock there. In the IDE as well, we also have got the AWS toolkit. And as part of the AWS toolkit, we're also running Code Whisperer.
Yep.
So if you've never used Code Whisperer before, this is the AI coding assistant. A great way to get started is by hitting this Learn tab. And so by hitting the Learn tab, you will get the ability to try it out in different languages. We like TypeScript, so we're going to try a prompt in TypeScript. It will give you an example, and you can hit enter. If you look down at the bottom, you will see Code Whisperer working, and it will start to go through what that looks like, and you can accept that and start building out your code using Code Whisperer.
Right.
And that's how this
application
Python was written. Okay, so that's this application, and let's go back and see it worked. So it's come back, and we've got 3 matches. So these are the applications that the software has said are the best, and you should interview these people. But again, this is working in localhost. How do we deploy this, and what runtime do we use on AWS? Donnie?
Right. Thank you, Derek. So we mentioned about building applications on containers with AWS Cloud, and we mentioned about using AWS Copilot. And AWS Copilot is by far the best tool for you if you want to get started with containers. So let me show you why. So this is the application that, so the first step that you need to do when it comes to Copilot is run to Copilot init. Right? With Copilot init, it's going to guide you a couple of questions, and at the end, you're going to get a manifest file called svc resume here manifest.yaml. So you can see these are actually the configuration for your applications. In this case, I want to have a load balanced web service. Right? Just with a simple type like that, AWS Copilot will going to create one VPC for you with 2 public subnets and 2 private subnets and 1 elastic load balancer. That's it. So instead of you having manually configured them one by one, which takes time, with AWS Copilot, just create Copilot init and choose the load balancer web service, and you have everything ready for you. Now,
thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's really nice to play with Copilot. Now, you're probably wondering, right? So how does the Copilot works? So with Copilot, it creates environment. You can create multiple environments with Copilot just by running Copilot and init environment. Once that you have your environment ready, you can run Copilot service deploy to deploy your application. And the next thing that you will have, once that you have deployed your application into an environment, you have this all nice information. For example, the configurations, which is staging, the routes, which is the URL for your applications, and then the endpoint and all these environment variables, all within one single tool. And it comes with best practices.
Excellent. Is that my URL then?
Yes, it is your URL.
That's it?
There you go.
Yes, and that's
Right.
my application. So this time the application is rendered in English.
Yes. So,
Yep.
so what really amazing about Copilot, AWS Copilot CLI is that you can just use your existing Docker image file, and then you can build the applications directly using Copilot.
Thank you, Donnie. So
Right.
that is two applications that we've written locally using AI ML tools, Bedrock, and Donnie has deployed them into the AWS cloud and operationalized them. So that's it from us. We've ran out of time, unfortunately. We would have liked to have 3 or 4 more demos, but maybe not.
Can we do it?
Next time?
Maybe next time?
So thank you very much. Kamsahamnida.
Kamsahamnida.